Good evening, everyone. We are reading yet again from our usual book, Strength for the Day. And the title of our lesson today is From Out of the Heart. A good man brings good things out of the good stored up in his heart, and an evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in his heart. For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. Luke 6, verse 45. When she walked into the room, all eyes drifted in her direction. She looked amazing. Her outfit was beautifully coordinated. Her hair was perfectly coiffed. She had a lovely figure and she knew how to present herself very well. Yes, her outward appearance was impressive. But shortly after the meeting began, someone stepped on her proverbial toes. When she opened her mouth and responded to the apparent injustice, the expressions of admiration suddenly turned to shock. As I listened to the exchange, I was filled with great disappointment. The verbal exchange soon stopped, but a sense of sadness lingered as we left the meeting. I allowed some time to pass before addressing the situation with both parties and made some suggestions as to how the situation could have been handled differently. They both eventually agreed, but the well dressed lady did so with some reluctance. She felt she had been wronged and felt justified in having defended herself. As I remembered the verbal exchange several days later, it reminded me of the beautiful red and yellow apple sitting on my fruit tray. It looked perfect, as if it had just been picked from the tree. I was hungry, so with great anticipation, I washed it and split it down the middle with a knife. To my horror, it was black inside, except for a thin layer of white flesh closer to the skin. I was so disappointed. I had been fooled by its external beauty. Jesus' words of admonition came to mind. The mouth speaks what the heart is full of. Luke 6, verse 45. It is not an easy thing to control our tongues. We tend to respond instinctively with harsh words when we feel attacked. Then comes the regret. Even though we apologize, scars are left on our hearts and on the hearts of those we hurt. To guard my words, I have made David's words my mantra. I said, I will guard my ways, lest I sin with my tongue. I will restrain my mouth with a muzzle. Psalm 39, verse 1. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a steadfast spirit within me. Psalms 51, verse 10. If my heart is clean, my words will be good and kind. Sonia Kennedy Brown. I don't know about you, but I have been strengthened for the day and encouraged for the day. The title of our lesson today was From Out of the Heart. And Miss Sonia Kennedy Brown so ably reflects on an experience, actually two experiences she has had, where she is mesmerized by a young woman who steps into the room dressed to the nine. Her aura is irresistible. She is a spectacle to behold. However, when her proverbial toes are stepped on, when someone has crossed her path and has not met her with the expectations that she would expect, she unleashes her wrath. And this beautiful woman turns into a dragon. Then the author reflects on a beautiful apple that lays on her fruit tray. and how she was deceived by the beauty of the apple. When she sliced the apple, she found that it was rotten on the inside. Finally, the author causes us to reflect on how we respond to situations. Are we mindful of the words that come out of our mouth and the impact that it not only has on us, but on others who are affected by our harsh words? There are so many lessons to take from this story today, and it just goes to show, and I'll share what I have learned and have been trying to apply to my life. I was having a conversation with someone, and what I've recognized is man looks at the outer appearance, but God looks at the heart. So not because someone looks the part means they are that ideal person. And when I bring this into friendships, romantic relationships, you might think an individual fits the part just by their appearance and just by how you see them operate. But all that glitters is not gold. And it's for us to ask for spiritual discernment, ask God to direct us and to align us with the individuals who are worth our time and effort. Because peradventure, you are chasing after an individual who you think is the one per se. So the one to be your friend or the one to be your husband or your wife. And when you really take a stock, that person was not actually supposed to be in your life, but because you've used only your eyes, the physical, you haven't tapped into your spirituality and asked God, God, is this the person for me to befriend? Is this the person that I should be pursuing as my future kingdom partner? You haven't even asked the big man, the man with the plan. You have just chosen for yourself that this is the person I like. I like her figure. I like how she talks. I like how she looks. She is my wife. Or for the ladies, I like that he's tall, dark, and handsome. And that ticks all the boxes. Oh, he goes to church. Do you know this gentleman's heart? Do you know this young lady's heart? The only person who knows the intentions and the thoughts that individuals have is God. And we leave him out of the equation on so many occasions. And that's why we end up in the situations that we end up in. Because we are just looking with our eyes. And not even our spiritual eyes, just our physical eyes. And so that's a lesson for me. That's a lesson for you who is listening. If it applies, take it on board. It can go for both friendships and for romantic relationships. You know, some friends you think are your friends because they look the part or they seemingly act the part, but they're really not your friends. And you have to ask God, is this person actually supposed to be my friend and be in my space? And he will reveal it to you. You have to pause. You have to listen. Listen for that still, soft, small voice. And it will nudge at your heart and say, you know what? This person is not the one. And God will send signs, whether through the word, through a friend, a family member. You'd be surprised. So that's one of the points that I was able to pick out of this lesson. Not everything that glitters is gold. The next thing that I've recognized is the things that we say, the things have a lasting impact on individuals. And it's so important for us to think before we speak. Pause and think it over before you say it, because once those words have left your lips and have landed on the ears of the receiver, they can't be taken back. And if it's something that was negative or hurtful, it's going to leave a scar. And no apology is able to soothe that scar that is created. Once those words exit, there's no way of pulling them back in. So let's just be mindful of what we say to people. And sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And think about timing as well. Is this the right time to say this to a person? If there's something that you need to address, one thing that I try to do, if I have an issue or something that I need to talk about, I take the person to the side. I never do it in front of a crowd because there's no need. The situation is between myself and you, and we need privacy. We don't need a crowd to resolve whatever the issue is. And there is this peace that exists when you're able to take someone to the side outside of the eyes of people and spectators, because sometimes people can make the situation even more explosive than it needs to be. So, timing is important, and read the room too. So if someone's going through a tough day, maybe that's not the best time to pick an issue up with them. And just to wrap up this lesson study, we have to recognize that whatever is in our hearts, that is what will come out in our words. When we have dirtiness, when we have unforgiveness, when we have grudge, when we have malice, when we have all those things that are killing us slowly, we then will spew venom and unfortunately be attacking and spewing poison on other persons. When we change the narrative, and we can't do it on our own, this is something that needs divine intervention. When we recognize that we are flawed in our nature and we need a reformation, when we ask God to come into our hearts and to clean the chambers of our hearts and allow His Spirit to remain there, then we'll see a difference in how we deal with situations. So things that would often get us annoyed and cause us to snap at people, we find that we don't respond the same way we used to. So it's important for us to ask God to create in us a clean heart and to renew a right spirit within us, so that we can be proper representatives of Him. Because we can't say that we're Christians and operating like persons who are unbelievers. What example are we setting? And that is for me as well. So I'm happy when, well, if I'm gonna be fair, I'm not always happy when the tests come my way, but it's like I'm boosted with confidence. I'm like, you know what, God, this test is testing my patience. So how I'm responding to this person, I need you to help me to respond the right way, the way that you would respond, the way that you are looking for me to respond. So if it was the old Dion, I'd be very snappy. I'd be very, not today. I'm not in the mood to have this conversation. But now I pace myself. I'm not quick to respond anymore. I'm more patient in my responses. And if that means I'm going to be to the point, but in a respectful way, or maybe I'm just going to be a bit quiet and I'm just going to listen. I'm not going to be retaliating or I'm not going to be nitpicking and trying to score and one up over you. Actually, I have won because my peace will be maintained. I will not be flustered by anything that you have to say to me. If you want to attack me, that's okay. If you want to speak ill of me, that's okay. When you are striving to be more like Jesus, little things are not going to bother you anymore because you just don't have the time. You have other important things to focus on. And that's just how I look at it. So any slight inconvenience or any unsettling conversation that may come that would want to disrupt my peace, I just say, you know what? Not today, Satan. My peace is more important than this. I will just kindly separate myself. There's no beef. I'm just protecting the peace that God has given to me and just allowing Him to fight my battles. I don't need to be tit for tatting and arguing and sending my blood pressure through the roof for anybody. It's not worth it. And I want to give that to you as well. Do not give in to the enemy. It's a trap. Do not fall for it. Your peace is more important. Jesus has given you this peace and this light. Let it radiate. Pass it on to someone else. Let them wonder, why is she so calm? Why is he so calm? Because Jesus lives here. That's why. So, I hope that you've been strengthened for the day and that you've learned something, that you've been encouraged. And thanks for tuning in as always. I'll see you again tomorrow.